We're going to go ahead and get started. We got a smaller group than normal, so I'm going to go ahead and record this session. While I'm recording, I've got everybody on mute. You can unmute yourself at any time and ask a question, interrupt, feel free. Or at certain times, I'll go ahead and unmute you all to give you a chance to ask questions at certain milestones. Today, I'm going to cover AiM O&M at a medium level, the warehouse and the inventory portion. I know my agenda says an hour and 15 minutes, but it should only take, with a small group, maybe 45 minutes or so. So we'll get done a little early, give you guys some time back on your schedules. So before we get started, I'll open up the mics. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them now, and then I'll get started. No questions? No. Great. So I've logged into AiM O&M. My screen's starting to look a lot different as I go and I add things to manage my account and set up the dev site. I've got some approvals, some queries. Well, today we're going to go into inventory. In inventory, you're going to define a warehouse. So on the spreadsheet I give you, it's going to have several fields. So if I search here for a warehouse, I'm going to have the name of the warehouse, a description of the warehouse, which we only have 255 characters to describe the warehouse, because unlike 99% of the rest of the application, there is no extra description. So 255 characters to describe your warehouse, the region, the facility, the property the warehouse is located in. Those you guys will provide on the spreadsheet. I didn't provide drop downs like I did with assets. So just try your best, and if I've got questions, I'll reach out to you individually. If you know the exact location, the room, or what you call the warehouse in AiM, you're more than welcome to put the location down. It's not a required field. Next, we've got institution, department, organization. That's the warehouse information. So institution's the same thing as a region code. The warehouse is department and organization information. A contact for the warehouse and a contact phone number. Those are nice to haves if someone's looking in AiM and they want to contact a specific warehouse or contact the warehouse person and ask them about the inventory or whatnot. They'll be able to easily find that information. Next, in the upper right-hand corner, you guys do not have to worry about any of this. I will go ahead and default it for you. The part you do have to worry about is familiar, and that is the days of regular operation for your warehouse. So in this case, their regular operation, they don't work on Sundays or Saturdays, and the rest of the week they're regularly operating. Now that does not mean you cannot take inventory out of the warehouse on Sunday or Saturday. That just means when you go to generate your bin count sheets, it's not requesting that you do a bin count all over the weekend. It'll assign the bin counts on weekdays. Also makes it easier for people to know, hey, when am I open, when am I not open? On the left-hand side, we've got account setup, security, and inventory parts. Those you don't need to worry about. As we add inventory parts, we associate them to a warehouse. They'll show up here in the inventory parts list. Account setup, there's an account for the warehouse. We'll gather all that information in the spreadsheet. You only need an account if you're utilizing this for back charges or anything like that. I think we defaulted to a generic account number just because 99% of you guys will not be utilizing this for back charges. So that's the warehouse itself. Now within a warehouse you have shelving, you've got drawers, and in AiM we call those bins. So we have warehouse bin definitions. So here in Upstate, they've got AB is their shelf unit, and then 2000 is the particular shelf itself, and then the -01 is the location on the shelf. So they used 3 separate areas of separation to describe the particular shelf that they're putting inventory on. You can only have one part number associated to a bin number, so it's a one-to-one relationship, in which case, if I have, like this blue bin shelf is a 01 right now, if I go down here and I look at the blue bin drawers, I've got 2550, 2550, 2550, and then I've got 1, 2, and 3. Well, this means it's the same blue bin drawer, they've just separated it 3 times so they can assign 3 part numbers to it. So their naming convention works out quite well for how they do their drawers and their inventory. Yours might be a little bit different. You might have 3 things on the shelf right now, and only have the first 2. For AiM, if you've got 3 items on one shelf and they're 3 different items with different part numbers, then we need to separate your shelves 3 different times. The bin gets associated to a warehouse, like I said, a part number, and then you have a quantity in the bin. So if I go and I open up a bin, there's additional information. So I've got my bin number, my bin description, so again 255 characters to describe my bin. I have a quantity. Well, in here I've got different quantities. I got a minimum quantity, a maximum quantity, a reorder level, and a reorder quantity. So my minimum quantity is how low am I willing to allow my inventory to go down before I need to send up a red flag. My maximum quantity is what's the maximum I need on hand. My reorder level is the level in which I want to set purchasing to automatically put it together a purchase order for reordering my inventory. So let's go ahead and edit this. So now I've got a minimum quantity of 5, a maximum quantity of 10, a reorder level of 5, and a reorder quantity of 5. So I want at most in my inventory 10 and at least in my inventory 5. If I reach 5, I want to order 5 more. That'll bring me back up to my 10. If I go below my 5, then it won't, it'll just reorder once I hit the 5, and then it's going to, which I'll show you guys here in a bit, under the part, it'll show what's committed and what you actually have reordered and what your expected totals are going to be. So that is pretty much the warehouse itself. It's pretty easy to set up a warehouse. In bins, they get associated, a bin gets associated to a part, a bin gets associated to a warehouse, and that's all the information we need. So any questions related to the warehouse and the setup of a bin? Nope? Okay, I'll continue on. So now the fun part is inventory, parts themselves. So in here, I'm going to pick on the acetylene tanks. With inventory, you have an inventory part number, which you'll supply. Unlike the assets where we assign in an asset number, Here you'll supply whatever part number you currently utilize in your warehouse. You've got your description, 255 characters. You also have an extra description, 4,000 characters, just in case the 255 isn't enough. We have what we call a class, commodity, and item. Each one's represented by a number and a description. If you go into Grainger's catalog and do a search online for your particular item, it'll bring up a class, commodity, and item field, or something similar to. So if I log into Grainger real quick, and I look up an outlet, an electrical outlet, I'm going to see that it's under electrical supplies, installed wiring devices, wall switches, and receptacles. So I take the first three here, and that gives me my class, my commodity, and my item. So if I were to look up receptacle, see if they have any in their inventory. Now if I go to the part, I see electrical supplies, installed wiring devices, wall switches, and receptacles. So my class, commodity, and item, just as shown here, class, commodity, and item. Real easy to look it up. It's just, unfortunately, on the spreadsheet I provide you, it's a very manual task. Next we have green. Unfortunately, that's not the color of the item. What we're asking for is it Energy Star compliant, or is it a green product for cleaning chemicals. A lot of those now anymore are green products, organic or whatnot. If I continue down the middle here, I've got type, so it'll be material or equipment. We don't use cycle codes, so we can skip that. You can put in a manufacturer and a model. And the reason where that might be important is over here on the left, we have substitute parts. So say you've got an outlet from Home Depot, and that manufacturer's Levitron or Leviton, whatever it is. You can put it here, and then you might have the substitute part, which is an outlet from Lowe's. Even though they are the same outlets, you might keep them separately because they come from different vendors and have different part numbers. Then we also have MSDS, whether or not it's required, and if so, we have an MSDS number that you can store in here. You'll be able to click on the MSDS number and open up and view your MSDS. Moving to the right, you don't have to worry about active. All your inventory items should be active, but you have a unit of measure and a unit of measure fractional. So the big thing with the unit of measure fractional is an example. 500 feet of electrical wire is in the warehouse on a spool, and the electrician comes up to the clerk and says, hey, I need 50 feet of electrical wire. The clerk goes, cuts 50 feet off, and hands it to the technician. The technician goes about his way. That would be an example of unit of measure fractional. We just took 50 feet off of that 500-foot roll and gave it away. Same thing if you order stuff by the box and the box contains 12 items or 12 bottles. If you inventory it by the box, then it's unit of measure fractional. If you inventory it by the item in the box, then it would be each, and it would be no. You're not going to give away part of a bottle. Next we have average cost. So the average cost is the average of all your purchases and what you have on hand. So, for example, today I buy 10 outlets at $5 a piece, and next week I buy 10 outlets, but they're $6 a piece. My average cost on hand is going to be $5.50. So then my on-hand value is my on-hand times my average cost provides me my on-hand value. Now this middle section here just gives us some dates as to when certain things happened, when we've issued inventory, when we've committed to inventory, when we dispersed inventory, and when we made an adjustment to our inventory. So next we have the good information, what's on hand. I've got 3 outlets on hand. What's committed? I've got nothing committed to my orders right now, so I've got no purchase requests, no shopping cart requests from technicians asking for these outlets. And then what's on order? So depending on my order points, I might have 5 on order, and then my expected would end up being, instead of 3, it would be 8. So to get your expected, it's on hand minus committed plus on order equals our expected number. Okay, so real quick, anybody have any questions about the basic layout of the part?
No, it's pretty interesting though. I like how it's very detailed.
Okay, great. I'm going to mute you all again and add in some more detail. So in the upper right hand corner here, just like assets, if I hit the edit button, I can put a picture of my inventory part here. That is fantastic for light bulbs. I know UAlbany's got some pictures that they like in their system of light bulbs, because they carry 120 different light bulbs, and when somebody walks up to them and says, hey, I need a light bulb, they ask which one. And the person goes, I don't know, and hands them a light bulb with no writing on it. Well, you can look at pictures of all the light bulbs until you find the correct one and know where that light bulb's located, because they're not always in the same bins or bins located near each other. They might be spread out, or they might be in different warehouses. At least you can have a picture of your inventory item. Next, we have vendors. So, okay, why it isn't like that? So in here, I can have my vendors, or they call them contractors. It could be the Home Depot could be my vendor. Grainger could be my vendor. You just have a list of them that you can put together if you like. It's not in our initial implementation unless you request you want to put it in on the initial. We can always do it at a later time. Warehouses, it'll tell you which warehouses that this receptacle is associated with. If you have multiple warehouses, you may have 5 in one and 15 in another. It'll show you your warehouses, and then your quantity for each warehouse and your average cost for each warehouse. Kit usage, I'll get into kits here in a little bit. They're a fun spot for me. I really like kits. They make life a lot easier for the technician and for the warehouse people. The rest of this, send email, notes log, user-defined fields, related documents, that's just like the previous sessions. Just remember, related documents, you can always load a document about this particular part. Say you've got an installation guide that comes with it and you want to load that in, you can go to related documents and load in a document. So again, any questions related to the parts? No? Okay, I'll continue on. The next portions that I go over are more processes and procedures rather than what is it I'm looking for the purpose of filling out the spreadsheet, but it makes sense for everything as a whole. So in here, you've got the inventory profile or part profile that we were just looking at, but you're wondering, how do I update my inventory? There's a couple different ways to change your inventory. One is you get a purchase request that's auto-generated for the min, max of your warehouse inventory, and that'll adjust your inventory appropriately when you do a purchase release, and you get the inventory adjusted in your warehouse. Or we've got the inventory adjustment tool and the external inventory adjustment. The inventory adjustment tool allows you to adjust the inventory of a part. So say, those are my adjustments. So what I did was I had one part, I wanted to move it up one. I'll show you one. So I did an adjustment by quantity. I need a description. I need a warehouse for my part that I want to adjust the quantity to. I need a part to adjust. And then it shows me current quantity is 80. Now, a positive number in here will show an increase in that 80. A negative number in here will show a decrease in that 80. So say I did my count and I only have 73, I don't have 80, I want to put in a -7. So then when I save it, and now it shows me my cost went down $166 and my current quantity is now 73 because we subtracted 7. So that's one way of doing an inventory adjustment. We have an external inventory adjustment, which requires, again, same information, but you're using a bin, unit cost, quantity. There's a lot more information you provide here. You can also provide a contractor, vendor part number, different information related to it that you want to change. So say you got a PO, you can put your PO number in here and say, okay, I've received it this way. So that's another way of doing an inventory adjustment to get inventory in and out of your warehouse. The main way to get inventory out of the warehouse for the technicians is they're going to use a shopping cart. And the technician, whether it's the technician using the shopping cart or the warehouse clerk using the shopping cart, it's a pretty simple process. You choose your region, again, your facility and your property/building, and a work order number to put your parts against. Phase, if it's got multiple phases, you can do a reference number if you've got a PO, and then you click on Add to Cart. So remember our class, commodity, and item we discussed earlier? Well, here's our class, commodity, and items. So I can either search the description here, I can search for an O-ring, and it'll bring up an O-ring, or I can clear my search, and I can do it by clicking on my class. I can see everything in my class. I can click on a commodity. I can click on an item. Now I see everything under that class, commodity, and item, and now everything's much simpler. So say I needed adhesive, and I needed 2 of them. I can add that to my shopping cart. Say I also want some floor cement. I can add that to my shopping cart. I click done. Now I've got 3 items in my shopping cart. Description. You also have a point of contact, who you want to contact to pick up the parts. Usually it'll be the person that's entering. You could select a requester and go that route, or you can just type in a name. Okay, you also have an extra description if needed, and place for documents if you like. You save it. Then in order for them to get it in the warehouse, it's got to be changed to finalized. Now I can go and I can do a pick ticket. Now a pick ticket just tells the warehouse, hey, I've got inventory that I need to go and grab. So if I do a new pick ticket, I need a work order number, a phase number, a warehouse, and the date it's needed. Then I can click on load shopping cart, and now I can see my shopping carts. So I want to load everything from my shopping cart. Now I've got my adhesive, my quantity 1, I've got my cement, and then I've got my panel adhesive, quantity 2. They're all loaded in my pick ticket. Need to change my pick ticket to finalized, save it. Now it's ready for picking. Once it's picked, we change it from we have a drawn quantity, how many you actually drew. And I can change it to drawn. Now, once it's drawn, that means that I've gone through the warehouse, I've went to the shelves, I've grabbed what I had, and I've got my order in my outgoing bin ready for the technician to pick up. So now we got to do a counter release. So if I do a counter release, I need a release by and a release to. We'll see if this will, see if it throws up any complaints. Then line items you load. There's my line items from my request. And then I save. Now it's going to say some items were only partially released. Would you like to generate a new pick ticket for these items? I didn't release or draw every item that was requested. I only drew some of the items. So I can click yes, and what it'll do is it'll create a new pick ticket for me. In this case, it's going to throw an error because my technician is not associated with that work order I selected. So I've got the wrong technician assigned. but that would be the process. Next, you have a counter return. So say that technician got 2 things of adhesive and 1 can of cement, and he only uses 1 tube of adhesive. He's got an extra tube left, or she. They can bring that back to the warehouse, and they can do a counter return, in which they'll pull up any existing counter releases and be able to return that particular item against that work order. That'll take it off the work order, and we'll also put it back into inventory in the warehouse. If they don't bring back inventory, then that inventory is going to be associated with that work order, and it will add to the cost of the work order. Okay. Any questions before I continue?
Yeah, Dan, I just have a simple question. Let's say the technician is not using pick tickets or anything like that. Can you just go over a scenario where a technician will just come into the warehouse, and let's say it's Joe the plumber, and he just wants to take out 2 fittings? Can you just show me how that will work for the warehouse staff to pull these items?
Yeah, let me think about how they handle that, or how we handle that workflow.
Thank you.
So, you can do a counter release without loading items. So, say I release by, and I release to, find my technician. I can add items, in which case it's going to ask me what's my part that I want to add. So I'm just going to select an acetylene tank. It's going to tell me which bin. I can assign it to a work order if I like. Process says you should assign it to a work order, and then how many I'm going to release. So say I want 2, I can release 2, I can click done, oh, and it is wanting a work order number. And then it's the same process as before, except we hit load on the first process to load from the pick ticket. We hit add on this process because we're just adding it right there at the counter. So there was no pick ticket. We bypassed that. We did our counter release. And that work order is probably closed. So that would be the process for getting inventory out of the warehouse without a pick ticket. Any additional questions?
No, that's cool. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so now the part I really like is inventory kits. Inventory kits are great because what they do is it takes a bunch of inventory and puts it in a group. So say, for example, PMs. You already know what materials you need for a PM, so why not have a PM kit? So I'm going to go PM a boiler, and I know I need X, Y, Z materials to PM that boiler. I can put it in a PM monthly boiler kit. Excuse me. And then when I open that kit, it's got all the parts, the quantities that I need, and everything's filled out. So if I'm a technician and I want something from the warehouse, I can tell them I would like the PM boiler monthly kit, and the warehouse can just go pick me the PM boiler monthly kit. Rather than say, okay, I need an acetylene tank, I need another acetylene tank, copper reducing tea, I need several reducing teas, or several teas, but they've got to be certain sizes. It's going to take forever. But if your technicians know what they need and you can work together, you can build inventory kits of all your inventory. Name them. My suggestion would be to name them the exact same thing as your PM to make it a lot easier. So when the technician says, hey, I'm doing this PM, the inventory kit matches that exact same name. It simplifies things so much. You've got room for a description, an extra description. We don't set this up in the initial implementation, but when you're setting up your PMs after implementation, it's a good time to set up the parts for the PMs as well. So, any questions related to inventory kits? Nope. Great. We'll continue on to the spreadsheet then. So the spreadsheet's pretty basic like the rest of them. The first tab, we've got the warehouse definition. You got to select your multi-tenant ID, which is your region code. You type in a description for your warehouse, or a name for your warehouse, and then you type in a description, which could be the same as the name. And then your region, facility, you just type in your facility name, property, and if you know location, I'll work with you on if anything is incorrect. Like property is supposed to be a number rather than a name, but if you provide me a name, I can easily provide or look up the number for it. Same thing with a location. So instead of filling this full of a bunch of stuff we don't need for much, I kept the file thin. As we go across here, we've got our contacts for the warehouse, their phone number, and then whether you're open Monday through or Sunday through Saturday. Y is yes, we're open, N is no, we're closed. But again, that doesn't mean you cannot release inventory on the off days. It's just for counting purposes. Next tab we have is inventory parts. So again, you select your multi-tenant ID. I would suggest just doing this once because you can always copy and paste it. Part, you put in your part number so you can export it out of your system however you have it currently, the part number and description. The part that's manual is your class, commodity, and item. So like I said, if you go to Grainger, you can look these up. It'll come up in the same format as in the Grainger catalog. Abrasives, adhesives. Say I choose abrasives and I go to commodity. Now I've got a bunch of different abrasives. If I choose adhesives or cleaning materials, if I choose adhesives and I look at that, now I've got a list of different adhesives. Same thing goes with item 2, or the item. I select tapes, I got various tapes. If I select concrete and asphalt, I've got concrete, asphalt, and mortar. So I can select that. Next I have, is it green? No, concrete is not green. Manufacturer, model, whether or not Msds is required, is an active inventory part, the unit of measure, which we have a drop down for. Unit of measure fractional is the Y for yes or N for no. The average cost. If you don't know the average cost of your material on hand, just look up the last price you purchased the material, and you can use that. And AiM will take care of the rest as you go through the process and begin to utilize AiM moving forward. Next, we have a warehouse for the part. So whatever warehouse we defined will be there, whether it be one warehouse or multiple warehouses. Then you type in a bin name. And a bin description. Upstate used, blue shelf bin. And then a quantity for that particular part, a minimum quantity, a maximum quantity, and your reorder level. So when I reach 25, I want to reorder 20. So when I put this in the system, it's going to know, hey, I'm below my reorder level, I need to reorder 20. Still won't bring me to my maximum, but what it will do is bring me above my minimum or my reorder level and prevent me from dropping to my minimum. As I continue to move over, we've got 2 more fields. The bin order. It's one item I didn't mention earlier, and the bin order is for physical count worksheets, the order in which you want them to be printed for bins. So say you're moving across or you're doing your counts and you want to count all the top shelves first, you can put the top shelves in order first and then go down to the next shelf and put those in order. Or you can just put them in order of what bin is first and do a zigzag or go top to bottom, however you want to do your counts. But bin order is not required. It's a nice to have when you want your sheets to print out in a specific order. Otherwise, it's going to go in whatever order your bins are in. And then you have an extra description. The extra description is for the part itself if you need an extra description for the part. Lastly, we've got the empty warehouse bins. So these are bins you have in your warehouse that currently don't have any parts assigned to them or associated with them. Not bins that just have zero inventory. These are ones that just have nothing in them, that are awaiting a home or waiting for something to become its home. So you select the multi-tenant ID, which is again your region. You select the warehouse. You put in a bin number. You put in a description for the bin, which could be empty bin or whatever you want to call it. Yes, it's active, and then you can add a bin order. Okay, that is all that we're looking for. Like I said, the hardest part is on the inventory sheet, the manual portion of class, commodity, and item. But to make it easier, go to the Granger catalog. Makes it so much faster to look up those 3 fields. So, any questions on filling out the inventory template? No? Any questions on anything we've discussed today?
No, I'm all set for now myself.
Okay. Well, great, guys. That's the end of my demonstration here. If you do end up having questions afterwards, please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. Everybody should have my contact information by now, and I'll respond back as promptly as I can. So
Excellent.
You guys take care and have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep, bye.